EarthMC, a Minecraft Townie server in the shape of the Earth. At first glance, this server is just a normal Townie server with plots and nations and cities. But it's so much more. Politics, wars, empires, alliances, and more. There are nations that rise to the top by becoming a military powerhouse, and nations that rise to the top with foreign relations and democracy. One of these nations being Michigan. Once one of the greatest nations on EarthMC, they had a working democracy, a stable economy, and good foreign relations. All to be abandoned and given up on. But what happened to Michigan? Why is it where it is today? The idea of Michigan being a nation was unknown to most of America. With only 3 towns in the Michigan area, one of which being a nation capital, nobody really expected a nation. But then 2 cities appeared to the north and west of Detroit. These cities were Dearborn and Sterling Heights, owned by Spiffles and Jim Bob. My first interaction with them was when I traveled down from my city to see what they were doing, when they attempted to kill me. But after a talk, I ended up being in their new Michigan Discord. Dearborn only had about 4 people in it at the time, but it wouldn't stay like that for long. Sterling Heights created the nation on the 29th of September, 2019, making that the start of a large rise of Michigan. But it wasn't really in Sterling Heights. Most of it was in the city to the southwest, Dearborn. Only a few days later, they were growing rapidly with somewhere near 20 citizens, only to grow more and more every day. There wasn't any other town on the server that was growing at the rate Dearborn was. They were building roads and houses all over the area and expanding towards Detroit and Huron City, which is where trouble arose. Michigan had close relations with my town, Huron City. At the time, I knew I should be joining Michigan, but I didn't want to because my nation at the time told me not to. Eventually, I caved in and joined Michigan, which turned out to be an amazing decision for me. But Virginia didn't think so. You see, at the time, Virginia occupied all the land in the area, and they didn't like that Michigan was expanding so fast. And they thought they were a puppet state of New York due to Spiffles having such good relations with the leader of New York. Eventually, that was proven to be wrong, but it cemented Michigan as an enemy of Virginia. They didn't like each other, and eventually it happened. After a name change to West Detroit, Detroit had enough. Enfish attempted to kill Spiffles, and in the process got himself killed in the Michigan Capitol building. Soon after, a peace agreement was come to between West Detroit and Detroit, but the damage was done. Michigan was already a fairly large nation at this point, gaining new towns left and right. Newly renamed Flint had upwards of 90 residents, and towns like Huron City had 20 residents. At that point, widely hated con man joined Michigan with his town, Toledo. This marked the first town built outside Michigan, but that wasn't a bad thing. It gained over 80 residents in the span of only a week. They were in the top 10 for a good amount of time, but eventually Toledo chose to create its own nation, Ohio. Michigan stayed on top for a while, but that was its peak. Soon after, there was a new supernation formed, the United States of America. It was an idea that had been tried so many times and never really succeeded. But they still tried it. They took over a lot of the USA area, and when something gets so large, someone is bound to not like it. Virginia pretty immediately declared war on the US, attempting to destroy it as fast as possible so they could stay on top. They had everything up to that point, but there was a new thing in America. Eventually, a lot of the puppet states of Virginia left to join the USA, which really destroyed the Virginia Commonwealth. Virginia eventually died, and to this day only has 1 citizen. Now, at USA's peak, it had upwards of 400 citizens, but good things don't last forever. Only a week later, it was discovered. While the Midwestern Union flourished, Michigan slowly lost excitement. Not enough was happening. But elections took place again, which created another large controversy in Michigan. Beaverman 1, hello, faced off against MCP Builder Guy in the election. It came down to the wire, and ended in Beaverman 1 winning. Or did I? You see, there were votes by members who weren't in the nation anymore for both sides. So it ended up as a tie. So a revote, and another win by Beaverman 1 that ended up not counting. Then a vote in the Senate that ended up in a win by Beaverman 1 that ended up not counting. Finally, MCP won president after a vote in the Supreme Court. After this, Beaverman 1 and other members of Michigan decided to leave and create their own nation. Michigan helped them out, and they had everything planned out. But then it happened. The superpower Rio Grande was growing fast. They were gaining nations to their commonwealth quickly. They bought many nations across America, and still to this day are gaining nations. Michigan was not exempt. On May 5th, 2020, without notifying anyone, the higher-ups sold the nation of Michigan and moved to Asia. They took the money and fled, giving up the nation of Michigan for 2,000 gold. Many cities then left Michigan to join the nation of Ontario, the nation owned by me, and Michigan slowly fell down in residents. Nowadays, Michigan is owned by Fractured Souls, and he is the only member of the nation that consistently plays. It is 15 residents and only a few inactive towns. It's quiet and sad. Nothing like what it used to be. A powerhouse with an active community and great leadership. Michigan will never be what it used to be. Well, if you did enjoy that video, make sure you do like and subscribe. See you later.